makes a lot of sense, and we do, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Matt, have anything to add, or anybody in the audience wish to speak for or against this variance request? Anybody in the audience wish to speak for or against this request? Anybody in the audience or online wish to speak for or against this variance? Thank you, Nate. Hearing no questions or other comments, look for a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Dennis, seconded by Tim to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed. Now we will go through the findings of fact. We're going to do things a little bit different tonight, and so I will begin. Is granting the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Clay County Land Development Code?
So, Mr. Chair, I should just add, I did draft two findings, an approval finding or positive finding and a negative or denial finding. I think it would be good when we go through these to review those two statements as basically starting points, and to determine specifically which one you'd like to go with.
Bullet, yep.
And if you're going to, if you'd like to change or, again, they're your findings, change, add, modify in any way. And now would be the time to do so for, as you go through each one.
So staff has written, the board finds the requested variance meets the general purposes and intent of the ordinance because it allows a customary agricultural accessory, which a grain bin, while still maintaining separation from the public right-of-way. Based on the stated location, 95 feet from the center line, the structure would remain outside MnDOT's 75-foot right-of-way, and the board finds that with the conditions requiring a site plan and confirmation of no encroachment into the right-of-way and appropriate drainage handling, the setback modification can be granted without undermining the ordinance's intent to protect public infrastructure and safety. And on the other hand, the board finds the requested variance does not meet the general purposes and intent of the ordinance because the ordinance setback standard is intended to maintain consistent separation between structures and roadway corridors for safety, maintenance, long-term corridor function. The applicant has not provided sufficient documentation, for example, surveyed setbacks, detailed site plan, or alternative analysis, demonstrating that reducing the required setback is consistent with the ordinance intent rather than a preference for a particular site layout. And I agree that we approve, yep. And, okay. And Dennis, I'd like you to read number 2.
Okay. Is the requested variance consistent with the Clay County Comprehensive Land Use Plan? For the approval, the board finds that the variance is consistent with the Clay County Comprehensive Land Use Plan because the proposed supports continued agricultural use and agricultural infrastructure investments on the existing farm site. The board further finds that the maintaining the structure outside of MnDOT right-of-way and requiring review for drainage impact address the public infrastructure considerations typically reflected in the land use plan policies. For the denial, the board finds that the variance has not been demonstrated to a consistency with the Clay County Comprehensive Land Use Plan because records lack specific evidence tying the requested setback reduction to relevant plan policies, transportation corridor protection under development or hazardous migration. without the site plan showing a comprehensive right-of-way limits and how drainage will be managed, the board cannot make an affirmative consistency finding.
I believe this is also a yes.
Yes. Approve.
Tim, would you care to do number 3? Pardon?
I don't have my glasses with me, so you'll have to read it.
Okay. Darn. Does the applicant establish that there are practical difficulties in complying with the strict letter of the Clay County Land Development Code by demonstrating, A, the applicant proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? For approval, the board finds the applicant has established practical difficulties in complying with the setback standard because the proposal is for a reasonable agricultural use, grain storage, integrated with existing farm infrastructure, and strict enforcement would require relocating the bin in a manner that substantially impairs the functional operation of the existing established grade handling system on the property. On the other hand, denial. The board finds the applicant has not established practical difficulties as defined in 8-11-6 because the stated hardship is primarily operational convenience and cost of conveying the grain if the bin must be placed elsewhere, and economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. The board further finds the record does not demonstrate the landowner's plight due to circumstances unique to the property rather than the owner's preferred site layout, and the applicant has not documented why compliant placement is not feasible. Absolutely. Part B, exceptional or extraordinary circumstances apply to the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same district or vicinity and which result from lot size, shape, topography, or other circumstances over which a landowner has no control. Approval, the board finds extraordinary circumstances apply to the property due to the establishment of existing grain bins, dryer, and internal circulation access patterns that constrain practical siting options for a new bin in a manner comparable to other agricultural operations. The board finds these constraints function as other circumstances affecting the property's reasonable development pattern and were not created solely to obtain a variance. For denial, the board finds extraordinary circumstances have not been demonstrated because the application does not identify inherent site conditions such as size, shape, topography, or other similar physical constraints beyond the owner's operational preference. The record lacks a detailed site plan or alternative analysis establishing that conditions beyond the owner's control prevent compliance with the setback requirement. Approval. C, granting the variance will not alter the essential character of the property's locality. Approval. The board finds that with the structure outside MnDOT right-of-way and subject to drainage review, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality, which is agricultural in nature with existing grain facilities in the area. Practical difficulties are used in connection with the granting of a variance, mean the property owners proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, not permitted by official control. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner, and the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Variances shall be granted for earth-sheltered construction as defined in section 21C.06, subdivision 14, when in harmony with the official controls. Yes, approval, and a yes. Dennis, would you read number 4, please?
Okay. Would the literal interpretation of the provision of the Clay County Land Use Development Code deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of the ordinance? Approval, the board finds that literal interpretation of the setback standards would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by others agricultural properties in the same district, namely the ability to reasonably expand or add commodity grain storage infrastructure in functional proximity to the existing agricultural facility. The board finds that approval with conditions allows comparable agricultural development opportunities while maintaining the structure outside MnDOT right-of-way and addressing the drainage impacts. The denial, the board finds that literary interpretation of the setback standard would not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district because grain bins remain allowable on the property if site is conformance with setbacks. The board finds that applicant has not demonstrated that similar situated properties are permitted to place a structure within the setback, or that denial would uniquely restrict customary agricultural development compared to other sites. That approve and say yes?
Yeah, I would agree. Number 5, is the variance being granted the minimum variance that would alleviate the practical difficulty? Approval. The board finds the requested variance is the minimum necessary because the proposed location, 95 feet from the center line, maintains the structure outside MnDOT's 75-foot right-of-way while allowing functional integration with the existing grain handling infrastructure. The board further finds that conditioning approval on submittal of a detailed site plan showing exact setbacks, right-of-way, and drainage provisions ensures the relief granted is limited to what is necessary to alleviate the practical difficulty and avoids additional encroachment. For denial, the board finds that the minimum variance standard has not been met because the application does not establish the ordinance required setback and does not provide alternatives demonstrating that a lesser deviation or compliant placement would not reasonably address the applicant's stated needs. Without a detailed site plan and documented options, the board cannot determine that the requested encroachment is the least relief necessary. Yes.
Approval.
Dennis? Number 6.
Does the variance request meet all the below criteria? No variance shall be granted where any of the following conditions are not met. Adequate sewage treatment system, water supply capabilities can be provided. Yes. The plight of the landowner or hardship is not due to circumstances created by the landowner. Approval, the board finds that the variance is not prohibited because the request is driven by the site's established agricultural development pattern and needs to integrate new storage with existing facilities rather than self-created conditions intended to cumulative the ordinance. The board finds no evidence in the records that the owner created the hardship solely to necessitate the variance. The denial side, the board finds that the variance is prohibited because the hardship is the result of the owner's preferred site layout and operational convenience rather than the unavoidable constraints. The circumstances necessary, the requests arise from the owner's chosen placement of the improvements and are therefore self-created.
Yep.
The variance would not allow the use that is not already allowed in that zoning district. The board finds that the variance is not prohibited because it is dimensional setback variance for grain bins and does not authorize the use that is not otherwise allowed in the zoning district. The underlying use remains agricultural, accessory agricultural. Yes, approve. There would not be significant adverse effects on the public health and safety. The board finds that the variance is not prohibited because the proposed structure remains outside MnDOT's right-of-way, and MnDOT has indicated no objection to subject to right-of-way avoidance and drainage review. The board finds that the public safety is protected through the conditions requiring some verification of the right-of-way limits and the site plan addressing drainage and access considerations. The denial, the board finds that the variance is prohibited because the records lack sufficient information to rule out public safety impact relating to the proximity of the highway corridor and drainage. Without detailed site plan review by MnDOT as requested, the board cannot find that the public health and safety will not be significantly affected.
Okay. Conditions may be imposed in the granting of a variance. A condition must be directly related to and must bear a rough proportionality to the impact created by the variance. The grain bin can be no closer than 95 feet to the road center line, and a site plan must be sent to MnDOT for review. Isn't that 95 feet? Shouldn't that be 75 feet?
Mr. Chair, the 75 feet represents the edge of the MnDOT right-of-way. The 95 feet is that what the applicant indicated.
Okay.
That would be where the edge of the grain bin would be placed.
Okay, well, we have gone through all the findings of fact. We got yeses on every question. So we're to the point where look for a motion to approve or deny the variance.
Move to approve with the conditions.
Second.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Dennis, to approve it with the two conditions, the variance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Variance is granted. Next item on the agenda is Scott Dams as a request for variance. The applicant is seeking approval of a variance to the road center line and property line setbacks to operate a commercial business in an existing grain elevator at 11649 123rd Street South, Sabin, Minnesota, 56580 on parcel ID 01.050.6011 on outlot P1, town site of Baker, section 1, township 137N, range 47W, Alliance Township. Look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Dennis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Public hearing is open. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a variance request to the road center line and side yard property line setbacks for a grain bin for a commercial business. This property is located in the between Sabin and Barnesville on the northwest end of the town site of Baker. It is zoned agricultural service center. It's a roughly 0.43 acre lot, currently residential, commercial, used as a vacation rental. There was a home occupation permit for an architectural design business that was granted in 2018. The applicant is requesting setback variances just to allow for the existing grain elevator to be used as a commercial establishment. Currently does not meet road center line and property line setback requirements, would not involve The request would not involve the expansion of building footprint or construction of new structures. The applicant is seeking relief from the dimensional standards that prevent reuse of the existing building for a commercial purpose. This is a site plan that was provided by the applicant. The red is where that property roughly is, along 123rd Avenue in Baker. The practical difficulty provided by the applicant is the applicant asserts that the existing grain elevator is a historic structure constructed in the early 1900s with its location, footprint, and orientation determined by historic rail-based grain handling operations that predate county zoning and setback regulations. As a result, the structure cannot physically meet the current side yard property line and road center line setback requirements without being relocated, substantially altered, or demolished. And the applicant states that this condition prevents reasonable use of the property under the current ordinance standards because the structure's fixed placement makes compliance with modern setbacks infeasible. The applicant further asserts that the hardship is not self-created, as the structure existed long before the adoption of the zoning ordinance and current ownership, and that the requested variances are necessary to allow continued use of the property in its existing form. Some considerations on this. It's currently served by 2 holding tanks for wastewater. No indication that sufficient land area exists for a compliant drain field. That any commercial use would require inspection, certification, continued compliance of existing septic system, or an alternative wastewater solutions that be consistent with state and county requirements. The applicant would also need approval of a variance to reduce the minimum lot size from for a commercial use from 1 acre to 0.42 acres. Most commercial uses require either a conditional use permit or an interim use permit and must meet minimum standards for wastewater and parking, among others. We don't have any information on the current building setbacks from the road center line and property lines. Staff estimated that the building is probably 18 feet from the road center line. It's a conservative estimate. Just some history here too. Granting this variance would not authorize the proposed use by itself. It would give the applicant kind of more options in the future to preview additional commercial uses that would require a conditional use permit. And in that conditional use or interim use permit review, you could address operational standards, compatibility, and other performance criteria. There was a prior request that was heard in November to reduce the 500-foot residential setback for a cannabis business to 250 feet that this board did deny. That is under appeal before district court and would need to be overturned or the standard amended before a CUP for a cannabis business could be considered. How this relates to comprehensive plan goals and objectives: we have a goal to encourage commercial and industrial development that is in harmony with the ag and rural character of Clay County. Relates to the goal by seeking to allow reuse of an existing ag structure rather than new commercial development on land. It's limited to setback relief of an existing building, does not involve any expansion. It really depends on the scale of the commercial activity in compliance with other requirements that would be evaluated separately from the variance. So, like a car dealership, for example, would be different than what it's currently being used for, like a vacation rental or administrative home occupation type permit where you have a home-based business that doesn't have customers or anything coming to it. So different varying degrees of commercial uses there. We have an objective under that goal to promote value-added agricultural, commercial, and industrial development in ag service center areas and along transportation corridors and hubs. Similar to the previous goal, looking to use an existing structure rather than establishing new development. And again, setback relief really depends on the scale and intensity of the proposed commercial use relative to a transportation corridor. We have a objective to avoid or mitigate against commercial and industrial development that increases potential for land use conflicts with rural residential agricultural uses. Again, similar to the other goals and objectives, looking for an existing structure without expanding its footprint at all. Approval of a variance could facilitate commercial activity in proximity to rural residential or ag uses. And again, whether those conflicts are avoided or adequately mitigated against would depend on the nature and intensity of that proposed use. So with that, recommendation would be to work through the findings of fact in order for this variance request. Again, this request is specific to the setback from the property lines and the setback to the road. Any questions for me at all?
I don't believe so, thank you. Thank you, Matt. Would the applicant care to come to the podium and speak to his request?
I'm the applicant, Scott Doms, and I think Matt covered everything. So, we're good.
Okay, does anybody have any question for Mr. Doms? No. Thank you. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak for or against this variance request?
Shane Thompson.
Hello, board. Shane Stephen Thompson. Been down at Baker since 1887. My great-grandfather, my great-grandpa, my grandpa, my dad's still alive down there, and started delivering actual grain at that elevator when I was 14 years old. Single axe truck. And we don't have police department, we don't have security, there is no parking there, and it's just a bad idea in a small town, so I don't know really what else to say about any of it. And you can see from the pictures, there's part of the roof's missing and everything else too, so, and everything else going on, so yeah, definitely against it. And they came to me in my dreams and said, don't let it happen. All three of my grandpas, so yeah. We take care of the small town people, and that's what we do, so appreciate and hearing my words.
Nate Edwards.
Hi there, I'm Nate Edwards. I live in Baker at 12225 118th Street South for about the last 15 years. I think that these changes would be a bad idea. I think allowing these changes in Baker will lead to increased traffic, noise, and crime. It'll also lead to higher home insurance rates and lower property values. Allowing these changes will endanger our safety, well-being, and community culture. It would not be a desirable or beneficial change to our community. Thank you.
Gerald Buttonhoff.
Gerald Buttonoff, 10449 140th Avenue South, Barnesville, representing Alliance Township. Township's basically against the project right now. Basically here, if anybody has any questions of the township. Thank you.
Rick Donovan.
Hi, I'm Richard Donovan. I reside at 12219 119th Street South in Baker. We've lived in Baker about 15 years. People move to a small community, a small town, and out in the country to get away from stuff like this. We have personally talked to 95% of the people right in Baker, and we talked to one person that really didn't have an opinion either way, or just plain out just didn't want to get involved. We've talked to others in the surrounding community and only ran into one person that didn't have an opinion either way. All of the rest of the people that we have talked to are opposed to this. As you can see, a lot of these people are here tonight. Unfortunately, we didn't have quite as big of a turnout as we did at the public hearing, Some people couldn't make it, some people are out trucking, things like that. This is a strong, supportive community that helps people when they're in need. Doesn't matter whether you're stuck in the snow and need a pull, if your lawnmower's broken and you need a mow, if your plow's broken and need somebody to move some snow for you, or you just need something moved in your garage. People pull together and help each other out. Scott, unfortunately, is not one of those people. Scott told council members here in his first meeting that he talked to most of the people around Baker and everybody was okay with that. Well, that was a lie. We are here tonight to let you know that we are opposed to this. People in Baker didn't move here because there was a pot dispensary, a bar, a C-store, anything like that. Most of the people moved to Baker because there wasn't any of that. Scott has this elevator listed for sale now, which leads me to believe that he's here looking to create chaos. He's looking to make a quick buck on his elevator, basically sell it, bolt out of here, and leave everybody in the town of Baker to live with his destruction to our community. Which leads me to the question, where do we go after this? After this gets pushed into our small rural community, I believe this would be a huge impact and not a good one to the people of Baker. Thank you.
David McLaughlin.
David McLaughlin, 11704, 123rd Avenue South in Baker. I guess I'd first like to start off saying that when Scott bought the elevator in 2017, Scott and I have always had a good relationship, and you know, the guy's done a lot of different stuff over there, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. When he converted it to an Airbnb, our residence is fairly close, and we've only had a handful of issues, and Scott has taken care of that. We've called him or messaged him with noise complaints or fireworks, guests that bring their pets and let them run loose and end up in our yard. Scott's always been pretty good about taking care of those problems, but this is just another attempt by him in order to facilitate his cannabis business, which myself and my wife are opposed to. We don't think it's a good fit for Baker, and we don't think that it belongs in a small community like Baker. I would encourage this board to deny his requests. Thank you.
Ray Bernard.
Hello, I'm Ray Bernard. I reside at 12026 120th Avenue South at Baker. I've been out there for 8 years. Yep, I agree with what other people are saying. This is just another pass to advance the cannabis business in Baker, which I'm completely against. I guess one of the main reasons I am against it brings crime. Anytime you have drugs, it brings crime. It brings people littering, stuff like that. Scott has been running a business out of there for quite a few years now, and if you drive by the place, it's a disaster zone. There's garbage, there's piles of lumber outside, there's scrap metal, concrete. This summer it looked pretty good for a while because the weeds grew about head high, so you couldn't see any of that, but then they cut them all down, and there's a gaping hole in the roof, there's windows missing out of it, and what you put out is what you attract. We don't need bad people coming around our little town and causing trouble and trashing the place. So that's a big concern of mine. I like where we live. I like our town. I like our neighbors. Everybody gets along there, and we just don't need this kind of trouble out there. Thank you.
Christy Donovan.
Hi, my name's Christy Donovan, Donovan, and I live at 12219 119th Street South in Baker. The first we heard actually about this whole dispensary that was when it was announced on the radio the day after it got approved. I was told that Scott went into his first meeting stating he had talked with the residents in Baker and we were all on board. Well, that was just a bold-faced lie. My husband and I have talked with, as he stated, 95% of the residents or more, and none of them had talked with Scott about his plans. The proposed location is near a new daycare and our softball fields. Our town is a family-friendly environment. During the late spring to summer months, we have t-ball and softball practices every week. They also do games here a couple times a month. When the games are being played in Baker, the whole family comes with. Nobody worries about their kids if they want to go walk around town. The introduction of a commercial cannabis and/or liquor bar establishment could potentially alter the atmosphere of our neighborhood, and it raises concerns for all of us. We don't want the loitering, the extra noise, and more litter than what is already there. Introducing a cannabis dispensary and/or bar could conflict with the established character and intended use of this zone, potentially impacting surrounding property values and the quality of life for nearby residents. He stated in the last meeting that this elevator was costing him $15,000 a year to maintain. He has now put an ad on Facebook trying to sell this place for $300,000. In this ad, he stated that for 3 years now, he has documented revenue of approximately $50,000 annually doing the B&B. Well, if my math is correct, that is still a profit of approximately $35,000. And while I do trust the local law enforcement, the presence of a business dealing exclusively in a high-value, cash-intensive product can introduce new security challenges. We're concerned about the increased traffic and the demands that this could place on our local police and emergency services, which are already budgeted for our community size and needs. I believe that the well-being and future character of Baker should be the guiding principle in your decision-making process. The potential risks and impacts associated with this dispensary and/or bar outweigh any potential benefits for our town of our size. Thank you for that. I do have a bunch of signatures, and then I do also have a copy of his ad on Facebook if you guys wanted that at all.
Mr. Chair, just a question is for Ms. Donovan. Is this a new petition, or is this the same one from the November hearing?
I did do this. I went around again and asked about, this is all new.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone else in the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone else in the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against? Hearing none, look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Dennis to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed. We will next go through the findings of fact. Is granting the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Clay County Land Development Code. Approval. The board finds that the requested variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Clay County Land Development Code and subdivision ordinance, as it allows continued use of an existing structure without expansion or intensification of its physical footprint. The variance addresses dimensional nonconformities associated with an historic structure that predates current regulations and does not undermine the overall setback framework of the ordinance.
Mr. Chair, can I just send a a reminder for the board and then just for those folks in the audience that this variance is looking solely at the property line setbacks and the road center line setback. So that's, these findings, draft findings are based on that. Again, if you agree with them or want to change, modify them in any way, they're your findings to do so.
Thank you. The board finds that the requested variance is not in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Clay County Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance, as setback standards are intended to ensure safety, orderly development, and compatibility of uses. Granting relief from required setbacks to accommodate a commercial use will weaken the intent of the ordinance by allowing continued nonconformity without sufficient justification tied to land use.
And Mr. Chair and board members, for a variance to be granted, you have to make positive findings for every single finding. So you, just as a reminder for that.
Yes. Okay, and I heard a no on item 1. Dennis, have any?
No.
Okay, the board is no, and we do not approve of that intent. Dennis, would you care to read number 2?
Is the requested variance consistent with the Clay County Comprehensive Land Use Plan? Approval, the board finds that the requested variance is consistent with the Clay County Comprehensive Plan as it supports reinvestment in existing development and adaptive reuse of long-standing structures while avoiding expansion into undeveloped or agricultural land. The proposal aligns with the plan objectives, encouraging efficient use of the existing infrastructure and preserving a community character. The denial, the board finds that the requested variance is not consistent with the Clay County Comprehensive Plan, as the variance would facilitate a commercial use in a location that does not meet the current dimensional standards. The comprehensive plan emphasizes orderly development and the infrastructure adequately, and the record does not demonstrate that these objectives would be met given the site's physical and wastewater constraints.
I'm a no on this one. It doesn't, other than what he's currently, in my view, the property just isn't consistent with what he's, other than what he's doing now, which didn't need a permit, while he got the home use, the occupation. I'm a no on this. Okay. Number 3, does the applicant establish that there are practical difficulties in complying with the strict letter of the Clay County Land Development Code by demonstrating, A, the applicant proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by official control? For approval, the board finds that the applicant proposes to use a property in a reasonable manner not otherwise permitted by the strict application of the ordinance. The existing structure's location prevents compliance with current setback requirements, and without relief, the structure's reuse would be substantially limited despite its continued physical viability. Denial the board finds that the applicant has not demonstrated a reasonable use that requires a variance, as the difficulty cited relates to enabling a specific commercial use rather than an inability to use the property at all. The ordinance does not guarantee the right to every desired use, and the record does not establish that reasonable use is otherwise denied. In fact, the applicant is currently using the property as a vacation rental, suggesting the property can be used in a reasonable manner for its current use. I concur. Dennis?
Deny.
B, exceptional or extraordinary circumstances apply to the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same district or vicinity, and which result from lot size, shape, topography, or other circumstances over which a landowner has no control or influence. The board finds that the exceptional circumstances apply to the property that do not generally apply to other properties in the district, as the grain elevator is an historic structure constructed prior to adoption of zoning regulations. Its fixed location relative to property lines and the roadway is a condition beyond the landowner's control and unique in nature. The board finds that the circumstances identified by the applicant are not exceptional or unique, as other properties containing older structures may also face limitations under current zoning standards. The difficulty described does not arise from unusual lot size, shape, or topography, but from the intended change in use.
I'd approve it.
Okay. C, granting the variance will not alter the essential character of the property's locality. The board finds that granting the requested variance will not alter the essential character of the property's locality. The variance applies only to an existing historic structure and does not authorize expansion of the building footprint or new encroachments into the required setbacks. The grain elevator has long been a prominent and established feature of the area, and the requested relief would not change its physical appearance or siting. Any changes in activity or intensity associated with the commercial use are subject to review and permitting, and therefore the variance itself does not alter the character of the surrounding locality. Opposing view, the board finds that granting the requested easement may alter the essential character of the property's locality. Although the structure is existing, approval of the variance would facilitate a commercial use in a location that does not meet current setback standards, potentially introducing increased traffic, activity, and infrastructure demands that are not characteristic of the surrounding area. Because the variance would enable a change in use that may affect the character of the locality, the criterion is not met. Practical difficulties as used in connection with granting a variance mean the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. And the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Variances shall be granted for earth-sheltered construction as defined in section 216C.06, subdivision 14, when in harmony with the official controls.
That's gonna change the character of it.
Okay. No. Dennis, would you read number 4, please?
With the literal interpretation of the provision of the Clay County Land Development Code, deprive the applicant of the rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. Approval, the board finds that the strict application of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other landowners in the district, as similarly zoned properties are able to utilize the existing structure for permitted and conditional permitted uses without dimensional barriers created by historic sightings. The denial, the board finds that the strict application of the ordinance does not deprive the applicant of the rights commonly enjoyed by the landowners. As all properties seeking commercial use are required to comply with the current setback standards, the applicant is not entitled to a special treatment based solely on the age and the placement of the structure. I'd say deny.
I would agree that no. Is the variance being granted the minimum variance that would alleviate the practical difficulty? For approval, the board finds that the requested variance represents the minimum relief necessary to alleviate the practical difficulty as it applies only to existing encroachments and does not authorize building expansion, new structures, or additional reductions beyond what already exists. Opposing, the board finds the applicant has not demonstrated that the requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to alleviate the claimed practical difficulty. The application does not specify the existing setbacks or the extent of the variance requested in measurable terms. Without knowing the degree of encroachment or the precise amount of relief sought, the board cannot evaluate whether the variance is limited to the minimum necessary.
I'd say yes, it's the minimum that he would need.
Okay. Does the variance request meet all the below criteria? No variances shall be granted where any of the following conditions are not met. Adequate sewage treatment systems or water supply capabilities can be provided. The board finds that adequate sewage treatment and water supply capabilities can be provided for the subject property. While the property is currently served by holding tanks, the variance does not authorize use of the structure without compliance with applicable wastewater regulations. Adequate sewage treatment can be ensured through inspection, certification, and permitting by the Clay County Environmental Health Department prior to establishment or intensification of use. The board finds that adequate sewage treatment has not been demonstrated for the subject property. The application materials indicate reliance on holding tanks, and the septic system has not been inspected or certified by the Clay County Environmental Health Department. In absence of the verification that adequate sewage treatment can be provided for the proposed use, the ordinance prohibits approval of a variance. Pardon? That is not my understanding. Clay County has not been out there and looked at the holding tanks.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's not my understanding as well. There's been some initial work on potential design for future uses, and you're welcome to confirm that with the applicant too.
Mr. Doms, have you talked to the Clay County engineer?
Environmental health.
Pardon?
Environmental health.
Environmental health, okay, yeah, that was close.
our understanding that septic tanks need to be inspected every 5 years, so we will comply as soon as the rest of the community of Baker is complying with that same standard.
So you have not reached out to the, and been inspected?
No, we've reached out, we've created a spreadsheet of all the properties in Baker, and we intend to
That's,
follow that.
okay, that's a no. The plight of the landowner or hardship is not due to circumstances created by the landowner. The board finds that practical difficulty identified by the applicant is not self-imposed. The structure's location relative to property lines in the roadway was established prior to adoption of current zoning and setback standards and is unrelated to actions taken by the current landowner. The board finds that practical difficulty is, in part, self-imposed, as the variance request is driven by the applicant's desire to change or intensify the use of the property rather than by the physical constraint of the land itself. The ordinance does not require accommodation of a specific proposed use when compliance with current standards is otherwise possible.
Didn't create them, it was there.
Pardon?
That part would I'd try to prove it. It was there, it's.
Okay. The variance would not allow a use that is not already allowed in the zoning district. The board finds that the variance does not allow a use that is prohibited by zoning. The variance request is limited to dimensional setback relief and does not by itself authorize a commercial use. Any such use would remain subject to separate review and approval under Clay County Land Development Code and subdivision ordinance. Pardon? Yep. Okay. There would not be significant adverse effect on public health or safety. The board finds that the variance will not have a significant adverse effect on public health or safety. The request is limited to dimensional relief for an existing structure and does not authorize occupancy, operations, or infrastructure without compliance with the applicable health, safety, and building regulations. The board finds that granting the requested setback variance may have a significant adverse effect on public health or safety. Required road center line and property line setbacks are intended in part to protect public safety by providing separation from roadways, maintaining sight lines, allowing for emergency access, and reducing conflicts between structures and adjacent properties. The existing setback from the road center line is 18 feet, which is potentially in the road right-of-way. A variance that grants relief from the setback to allow more intense commercial use may have a substantial impact on public safety due to the proximity to the roadway. Yeah, there just isn't any. Okay. Conditions may be imposed in the granting of a variance. A condition must be directly related to and must bear a rough proportionality to the impact created by the variance. So we have gone through the findings of fact. We have found numerous reasons to deny. So I look for a motion to deny.
I'll make the motion to deny the.
Motion by Dennis, seconded by Tim, to deny the variance, for the reason being that there was numerous things that were found to be not adequate. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Variance is denied. Okay, our next order of business is a public hearing for Scott Toms, request for a variance. The applicant is seeking approval of a variance to the minimum lot size to operate a commercial business in the existing grain elevator at 11649 123rd Avenue South, Sabin, Minnesota, 56580, on parcel ID 01.050.6011 on outlot P1, Town Site of Baker, Section 1, Township 137N, Range 47W, Alliance Township. Look for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Dennis, seconded by Tim to open the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Public hearing is open. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yep, this is a variance request to reduce the minimum lot size for commercial use from 1 acre to 0.42 acres. Same property as the previous hearing, so between Sabin and Barnesville on 52, just off 52, northwest side of the town site of Baker. Zoning is agricultural service center. Roughly, according to our deeded acres in the GIS, or in our land records, it's a 0.43 acre property. Used as vacation rental. There's an administrative home occupation permit for an architectural design business that was granted in 2018. The applicant is requesting a variance to the minimum lot size for a conditional use cannabis micro business or other commercial use. The property is an existing grain elevator structure. The proposed business would operate entirely within the existing structure, no proposed expansion, building footprint, no increase in impervious surface, no additional site development. So, same property. The practical difficulty stated by the applicant states that the strict application of the 1 acre minimum lot size requirement creates a practical difficulty because the subject property is a legally existing sub-acre parcel improved with a substantial permanent structure that predates the current zoning ordinance. The applicant asserts that the grain elevator has a fixed footprint that cannot be relocated, expanded, or reconfigured to meet the minimum lot size requirement. The applicant further states that the parcel size, configuration, and historic development pattern are unique when compared to surrounding properties, many of which are larger agricultural tracts. The applicant indicates that acquiring additional land to meet the 1 acre minimum is not reasonably feasible and would not change the operational impacts of the proposed use. The applicant asserts that the strict enforcement of the lot size standard would effectively prohibit reasonable economic use of the existing structure, despite existing infrastructure and prior development. The applicant also notes that the proposed use would not increase traffic noise, visual impacts, impervious surface area beyond existing conditions, and argues strict application of the minimum lot size requirement does not advance the underlying purpose of the ordinance as applied to this site. Based on these factors, the applicant contends that the requested variance relates to the physical characteristics of the property rather than personal circumstances and represents the minimum relief necessary to allow reuse of the existing structure. So just going to go through the purpose of minimum lot size standards. They have them in Clay County to regulate development intensity and scale of commercial and conditional or interim uses, promote compatibility with surrounding land uses, support safe, functional, long-term site design, provide baseline dimensional controls for building separation, buffering, mitigation of operational impacts, which would be noise, lighting, traffic, parking, among others. To ensure site function and infrastructure considerations, would ensure the 1 acre minimum is to ensure sufficient land area to accommodate essential site functions, including access and internal circulation, parking and loading, emergency vehicle access, drainage, stormwater management, utility placements, and snow storage, and reducing on-site impacts to other properties and public rights of way. The lot size minimum provides flexibility for fire separation, emergency response, hazard mitigation, promotes predictable and consistent development patterns, supports efficient administration and enforcement of the zoning ordinance, benefiting neighboring landowners through clear development expectations. Double side there. And also for management of just cumulative impacts. We have several substandard parcels in the county that could be manageable in isolation. Repeated deviations could contribute to congestion, infrastructure strain, inconsistent land use patterns, and minimum lot size helps ensure commercial and conditional or interim uses remain sustainable at a community scale. Specific to this property as well, the property is served by 2 holding tanks. Again, we've kind of gone through this. There's not a sufficient land area for compliant drain field. Any commercial use would require inspection, certification of existing septic system, or an alternative wastewater solution consistent with state and county requirements. Ongoing compliance would be required. Again, want to reiterate that granting the variance would not authorize a proposed use or any use by itself, that a conditional use permit or an interim use permit for most commercial uses would still be required. The review of those permits would address operational standards, compatibility, performance criteria specific to this property, potentially becoming a cannabis microbusiness location in the future. Again, just reiterating that the previous variance request was denied, and that is under appeal in district court, would need to be overturned, or that standard would need to be amended before a cannabis business could be considered. How this would relate to our comprehensive plan, goals and objectives. We have a goal to encourage commercial and industrial development that is in harmony with the ag and rural character of Clay County. Again, this would seek to allow reuse of an existing structure rather than new commercial development on ag land. It's limited to lot area relief for an existing building that wouldn't involve any expansion. Again, depends on the scale of the commercial activity that's being proposed there. We have a goal, an objective under that goal to promote value-added ag commercial and industrial development along ag service center areas and along transportation corridors and hubs. Similar to the previous goal, looking at reusing an existing structure and lot. It's related solely to the lot area, and again, would depend on the intensity of the commercial use. And we have an objective to avoid or mitigate against commercial and industrial development that increases potential for land use conflicts with rural, residential, and ag uses. Similar to the previous hearing, this is, again, something that's not looking to establish a new commercial activity on ag land, reusing an existing structure, could facilitate commercial activity in proximity to rural, residential, or ag uses, and again, that depends on the intensity of that use. Recommend working through the findings of fact in order for this variance request. Any questions for me at all?
Oh, would the applicant care to come up and speak?
I just kind of want to get something clear. I'm under the impression that this is a request for a variance that has nothing to do with cannabis. I thought this doesn't have anything to do with cannabis. This is a commercial business, so I'm not quite sure why that's being brought up. And if that's the case, then my paperwork from the county says it's a commercial business and it has nothing to do with cannabis, so I'm asking for this to be tabled for a month so that we can get our this variance to be tabled for a month so that we can get our paperwork correct. Because I was under the impression that this actual variance didn't have anything to do with the cannabis. This was just a commercial variance. And I don't think it's appropriate to be mentioning something as like cannabis in that if that's the case. I have my paperwork here too, Matt, if you want to look at it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here too, so. Yep, and it says conditional use cannabis business.
Okay, that's not what you guys sent me though.
I was,
This is not what I got sent in the mail, so I'm asking, I didn't come prepared to argue for that, so I'm asking to be tabled for a month for that.
that'd be fine. Could certainly table it.
In the parameter of the 60 days, you know, I'm concerned with the time frame. Because he has a 60-day, if he did this in December, which I believe he did, we may have to do something.
We would be within the 60 days, and then also because this comes at the applicant's request, we will work with the applicant to extend that 60-day, or to extend this 60-day period, but we would be within the 60 days.
Okay. I'm assuming that would require a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd recommend a motion to
Table it.
To
table,
for-
close the public hearing and then table.
Okay.
Correct, yep, close the public hearing and table.
Okay, look for a motion, thank you.
Thank
Look for a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Tim, seconded by Dennis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Now look for a motion to table this variance request until the February meeting.
Correct.
Motion by Tim, seconded by Dennis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Meeting is tabled for the February, until the February meeting.
Mr. Chair, that's February 17th.
And that would be February 17th. Okay, now, was there any unfinished business?
No unfinished business.
How about new business?
No new business.
Well-
Oh, yes, actually I have one thing just about mileage. The IRS mileage rates have increased from 70 cents to 72 cents, so getting a pay raise.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything else they want to bring up? Nope. Hearing none, look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make motion to adjourn.
Motion by Dennis, seconded by Tim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Call the meeting to order. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review the materials online or in the mail, which most of us got them yesterday. If nobody has any changes or corrections to the agenda or additions for approval?
So move.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Brad, seconded by Jenny to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Agenda is approved. We did not meet in December. Our last meeting was November 18th. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the minutes from November 18th? Hearing none, look for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Sebastian,
Second.
seconded by Brad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Minutes are approved. Now, next on the agenda will be, is there anybody in the audience or online that wishes to speak to something that is not on the agenda? Is there anyone in the audience or online that wishes to speak to something that is not on the agenda? Is there anyone in the audience or online that wishes to speak to something that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to our first public hearing. The first hearing is Scott Dom's petition for text amendment. The petitioner is seeking amendments to the Clay County Land Development Ordinance and subdivision regulations to reduce the minimum lot size for all commercial uses and to reduce the adjacent residential setback for cannabis businesses. The geographic scope of the proposed amendment is countywide, including the petitioner's property at 11649 123rd Avenue South, Sabin, Minnesota, 56580, on parcel ID 01.050.6011 on outlot P1, Townsite of Baker, Section 1, Township 137N, Range 47W, Alliance Township. Look for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Ashley, seconded by Laura. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing is open. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a kind of a two-part text amendment request. The first part being to reduce the cannabis business setback from an adjacent dwelling from 500 feet to 250 feet in the Agricultural Service Center zoning district. The second would be to reduce the minimum commercial lot size in the Agricultural Service Center zoning district from 1 acre to 0.5 acres. The petition cites the following as the basis for the request: to improve feasibility of locating cannabis businesses in the Agricultural Service Center district, to support the reuse of existing or historically developed Agricultural Service Center parcels, and to align dimensional standards with historic Agricultural Service Center development patterns. Background on this: the Planning Commission previously reviewed text amendment allowing cannabis businesses as a conditional use in the Ag Service Center district, recommended denial. They cited concerns, and the Commission cited concerns including compatibility of cannabis businesses in the Ag Service Center areas where residential uses are often in close proximity, potential for nuisance impacts such as traffic, odor, lighting, security, limited operational experience with cannabis uses at the time, high proportion of parcels that would be ineligible due to setback requirements, increasing the likelihood of variance requests, and consistency with the comprehensive plan and the intended role of the ASC as a rural service district with a significant residential presence. The Board of Commissioners did enact this amendment to permit cannabis business as a conditional use in the ASC district. Their findings included that the use has the potential to revitalize and diversify Ag Service Center economies. The use could be similar to other conditional uses permitted in the Ag Service Center District, such as a bar, restaurant, commercial entertainment, regarding business type, traffic generated noise, lighting, and parking. And then adaptive reuse of structures has the potential to stimulate economic activity and promote tourism, preserve structures that contribute to the rural character of Clay County. Some background on the Ag Service Center zoning district. So it's small unincorporated communities throughout the county. Support rural, residential, commercial, industrial, and ag industry to supplement the ag economy of the county. One thing that's called out is commercial and industrial uses in this district must be located and designed so they do not create nuisance or trespass concerns for nearby residential uses. For our cannabis use standards, cannabis businesses are subject to specific use standards. They're intended to mitigate land use conflicts and offsite impacts. Current standards require a 500-foot setback from a dwelling on an adjacent property. The Board of Commissioners adopted this residential setback to limit impacts to nearby residential uses. It's consistent with separation distances for similar sensitive uses such as schools and daycares that's established in statute. It also reflects the statutory requirements that cannabis be located 500 feet from daycares, and considering that is relevant just due to the presence of at-home daycares throughout Clay County. The purpose of a minimum lot size for commercial uses is to regulate development intensity and overall scale of commercial uses, ensure compatibility with surrounding land uses, and support safe, functional, long-term site design, really to provide adequate area for building separation and buffering, mitigation of noise, lighting, traffic impacts. Minimum lot sizes help ensure access and internal circulation, parking and loading areas, emergency vehicle access, drainage and stormwater management, utility placement, snow storage, and then just that the on-site accommodation of these aspects of a commercial use, most commercial uses, would reduce spillover impacts to adjacent properties and public rights-of-way. 0.5 acre minimum lot size would be the smallest minimum standard in Clay County. Properties in unincorporated areas of Clay County are not like the incorporated areas, and where they rely on private wells and on-site sewage treatment systems, which require adequate space and also separation distances, say, between wells and septic systems. Our county sewer and stormwater management ordinance also requires that we have 2 soil treatment and dispersal areas for lots created after January 23rd, 1996. So any new lot would have to meet this, be able to ensure 2 soil treatment and dispersal areas. And the purpose of that is to ensure that there's adequate space for initial placement, and if there's some sort of failure, that there is a backup area in place. So on smaller lots, site functions do compete with the overall building footprint, septic placement. There's parking or loading issues that could impact adjacent properties or public rights of way. For the specific to the amendment for reducing the 500-foot setback to 250 feet, the Board of Adjustment did deny an amendment to that in November, and that decision is under appeal in district court. The petitioner's lot deeded acres at 0.43 acres. It would be under the half-acre minimum lot size and would be non-conforming if approved. We have received comments from Alliance Township opposing the proposed amendments. Gooseberry Township did submit a letter opposing the proposed amendments. We did get a letter from Elkton Township as well, which has an agricultural service center, a town site of Downer. They're also opposed to approving this amendment because they believe that the current setbacks are appropriate for the best interests of the residents of Clay County. And we did get one letter also submitted as well, and those were all included in your packets. So I can give this.
Thank you.
Excuse me. How this request might relate to our comprehensive plan goals and objectives. We have a Goal to encourage commercial and industrial development that is in harmony with the ag and rural character of Clay County, and to avoid or mitigate against commercial and industrial development that increases the potential for land use conflicts with rural residential or ag uses. This amendment would reduce the residential setback for a cannabis business in the Agricultural Service Center District by 50%, and the minimum commercial lot size from 1 acre to 0.5 acres. This would increase generally the number of parcels in this district that'd be eligible for commercial cannabis development, and allow such uses to locate closer to existing rural residences. From a policy perspective, the reduced setbacks and smaller lot sizes, they may improve development feasibility on some of these constrained or historically platted parcels that are under that acre, and may support reinvestment in existing structures and properties. Prior findings emphasize that in testimony, I would say, emphasize that many of these areas function as predominantly residential in character, with service or commercial uses interspersed. And in this context, reducing separation distances in smaller lot areas could increase the proximity of commercial activity to rural residential uses, increasing potential for land use conflicts. The comprehensive plan does call for avoiding or mitigating development patterns that increase land use conflicts with rural residential or agricultural uses. Reducing setbacks and lot sizes may shift that balance away from avoidance and towards reliance on site-specific mitigation. And you might want to consider whether mitigation tools are sufficient, or if the existing standards are clear and predictable in minimizing these conflicts. We also have a goal to ensure affordable, efficient, safe, and environmentally sound individual and community wastewater management for the benefit of Clay County property owners. And in unsewered areas of Clay County, minimum lot size standards help ensure adequate space for compliant sewage treatment systems and included replacement areas. Reducing the minimum lot size may limit design flexibility on some parcels, all dependent on soils, building footprint, and site constraints. Larger minimum lot sizes function really as a preventative measure to support long-term environmentally sound wastewater management. And then you may want to consider then whether the proposed reduction increases uncertainty in meeting these management objectives for commercial development in this zoning district. As far as recommendation, you are only making a recommendation tonight to our county board. That would be a separate public hearing taking place at a later date and time. You can recommend approval, denial, or continuance based on the request and evaluation against the ordinance, prior findings, overall public health, safety, and welfare consideration. So recommendation would be to go through the findings of fact for the text amendment. Any questions for me at all?
Our current setbacks, that's what's known throughout the state, right? If I remember correctly, our 500 feet, that's what the state.
When Clay County went through the developing and enacting the cannabis ordinance, the residential setback is not in statute, in state statutes. Daycares, treatment centers, residential treatment centers, features on playgrounds or features in parks where there's a frequency of minors that might use that area. Residences were not included. There are some counties that have chosen to add residences and some that haven't. My understanding is, based on the commission, is that they wanted to add residences just because of prevalence of at-home daycares and other things like that, and then just for general, the intent to keep the cannabis uses as a commercially zoned use, essentially.
Okay.
Any other questions for me at all?
Okay, would the applicant care to come and speak to your proposal?
This
Is it green?
Is no. There we go. Got it.
Please state your name for the record.
Scott Doms. This petition asks whether Clay County has land use regulations that reflect current law, modern business operations, and the original intent of its zoning districts, or whether those regulations operate as a structural barrier to uses the county has already decided to allow. Cannabis businesses are permitted in the ASC zoning district. That policy choice has already been made. The issue before you is whether the dimensional standards attached to that permission make sense in the context of how ASC districts were originally planned and developed. ASC districts were not designed around large, isolated parcels. Historically, they were established as compact service centers, intentionally located near rail lines, highways, and small communities to promote efficiency, shared infrastructure, and economic clustering. Proximity was the point. Smaller lots, closer relationships between uses, and reuse of existing properties were normal and expected. The problem is that the current ordinance applies large lot commercial standards to districts that were never laid out to accommodate them. A 1 acre minimum lot size may be appropriate in a suburban or greenfield context. It is not appropriate in ASC districts that were platted decades ago around grain elevators, service buildings, utilities, and transportation corridors. Imposing that standard retroactively renders many ASC parcels permanently non-viable for any new or evolving commercial use. That does not impact regulation, that is regulatory mismatch. The same problem exists with the adjacent residential setback for cannabis businesses. ASC districts frequently sit near existing residential developments because that is how service centers historically evolved. Applying a 500-foot setback assumes a land use pattern that does not exist in these districts and never did. The result is not mitigation, it is elimination. This matters because cannabis businesses today function as controlled commercial uses, not industrial nuisances. There's no smoking, there's no outdoor activity associated with the product. Everything is contained within the building envelope and regulated through licensing, security requirements, and standard building and fire codes, much like a pharmacy or other highly regulated retail businesses. At the federal level, cannabis is now being recognized as a Schedule I substance, including actions taken under Donald Trump, formally acknowledged that it is not the drug it was historically portrayed to be. That reclassification has real land use implications. These businesses are moving away from cash-only operations into regulated banking, insurance, payroll, and transparent accounting systems. From a planning perspective, that makes them more predictable, more stable, and less risky, not more. Clay County's ordinance, however, continues to regulate as if none of that has changed. Is it also important to look at regional consistency? Neighboring jurisdictions regulate the same state licensed businesses under far less restrictive dimensional standards. In Otter Tail County, no residential setback exists, and there's no acreage constraints that effectively eliminate sites. In Detroit Lakes, there's no residential buffer or minimum lot size requirements for cannabis businesses. In Moorhead, the ordinance likewise imposes no residential setback and no minimum lot size. Clay County is not required to copy neighboring ordinances, but when its standards are so restrictive that compliance becomes functionally impossible, that disparity becomes relevant. It demonstrates that the impacts being feared here are not borne out elsewhere. This amendment does not remove oversight. Conditional use review remains. Building code enforcement remains. Fire and life safety requirements remain. What changes is that projects can finally be evaluated on what they actually do rather than being precluded by acreage and setback standards that were never calibrated to the districts they govern. The amendment is countywide because the consistency is countywide. It affects ASC districts near Sabin and elsewhere throughout unincorporated Clay County in exactly the same way. If a use is allowed in the district, that ordinance should make that use realistically achievable on the lots that exist in that district. This proposal restores the basic alignment between zoning intent and zoning execution. This is a reasonable correction. It is defensible, and it is necessary if Clay County intends to regulate businesses rather than prohibit them by design. Thank you.
Anybody have any comments or questions? I have, so, with the, we're talking about, 0.42 acres and 0.5 acres. Did you have have you had a survey done? Do you know do you know how many, what your square footage is that you own or where your property lines are?
I know where partial property lines are. I have not done a survey yet.
Okay, so you don't, so you agree with that you have less than a half an acre?
That's what it says, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Please step down. Is there anyone on the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against?
David McLaughlin.
My name's David McLaughlin. My wife Debbie's here as well. We reside at 11704, 123rd Avenue South. We're one of the residents that are within the 500-foot setback requirement. As I stated earlier in the previous meeting, when Scott bought the elevator back in 2017, since that time, Scott and I have had a good relationship as far as neighbors go. When he opened his Airbnb, we did have some issues with his guests, noise concerns, fireworks, loose dogs running through the neighborhood. And Scott was, I called him or texted him a message, and he was always very good about accommodating that or getting that taken care of. But in looking at this request to change the text or the setback requirements, minimum lot size, things like that, I guess I would strongly discourage or recommend a denial recommendation to the county commissioners on this. Reasons are several. I think one, to change an entire county ordinance or what have you would be a bad precedent for the county commission just based on one individual property. I'd also like to just, and I didn't mention it at the last meeting, although it was brought up, Scott currently has the elevator on the market for $300,000. In his ad, he says today, this structure functions as a fully turnkey vocational rental operation with 3 consecutive years of document gross revenue averaging $50,000 a year annually. At the November meeting, he stood up and said he's losing $15,000 to $20,000 a year, which is quite contrary to what he was advertising. It says all core building systems, life safety elements, and guest amenities have been stabilized and modernized to support short-term lodging use. This asset is currently income producing, professionally maintained, and operational without deferred maintenance. In addition to his existing rental income, the property offers substantial upside through potential development and additional use with existing structures on site, leveraging the building's scale, industrial construction, and unique character. This is a proven cash flowing adaptive reuse property with stabilized income and clear expansion potential. There's an old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's exactly what Scott Doms is trying to do here, is eat an elephant one bite at a time by getting the county to start bending their rules and to change their guidelines in regards to his cannabis business. His end goal here is to sell this structure to somebody else and unload this building to somebody else. And by changing these ordinances, setback requirements, things like that, it adds potential value to his property. I have a couple copies of not only the ad, but pictures that I took yesterday of this property. And I'll be happy to provide a couple copies here for review. You'll notice that, that they're the same one. I have two if you want to share them. You'll notice for a property that says needs no deferred maintenance, it has a substantial amount of debris. There's a Porsche stuck in a snowbank along with another vehicle. There's numerous trash and garbage put there. Building that one part of the structure, the roof is entirely gone. This building has not been professionally maintained. It does need extensive deferred maintenance. And again, I would recommend that you move this forward with a recommendation of denial. Thank you.
Gerald Buttenhoff.
Gerald Buttonoff, 10449 140th Avenue South, Barnesville. I'm an Alliance Township Supervisor. I don't know if you've seen maps of it. The township road runs right up against this property. I don't know where there's gonna be parking. I don't know where there's gonna be a whole lot of stuff. If anybody has any questions of me, feel free to ask. I've recommended no vote.
Rick Donovan.
Hi, my name is Richard Donovan. I reside at 12219 119th Street South in Baker. I've lived in Baker now for over 15 years. When we were looking to purchase a piece of property in Baker to put up a shop, planning and zoning had told us that it was zoned residential and we would have to build a house there on it first. End of discussion. So I'm wondering if, why would we start bending rules for somebody like this? They wouldn't bend the rules for me. People move to a small community or small town or out into the country just to get away from stuff like this. We've personally talked to 95% of the people right in Baker, and we only talked to one person that actually didn't have an opinion either way or just didn't want to get involved. We've talked to others in the surrounding community and only ran into one person that didn't have an opinion either way. All the rest of the people that we talked to are opposed to this, and as you can see, a lot of those people are with us here tonight. This is a strong, supportive community and it helps people when they're in need. It doesn't matter whether you're stuck in the snow, you need a pole. If your lawnmower's broke down, you need a mow. If your plow is broke and needs some snow moved, or if you just need something moved in your garage, people pull together and help each other out here. Unfortunately, Scott is not one of those people. Scott told council members on his first meeting here that he talked to most of the people in Baker and everybody was okay with this. We'd like to know exactly who he talked to because everybody we've talked to said, no, we don't want this here. If he boldly lied to you about something so small, what else is he gonna lie to you about? People in Baker didn't move here because there was a pot dispensary or a bar or C-store here. Most people moved to Baker because there wasn't something like that here. I mentioned before that the elevator has listed for sale. Scott Dahm is looking to create chaos here. We've seen him tonight literally stare down and glare at people in the audience here. He's looking to make a quick buck on this elevator, basically sell it, bolt out of here, and leaving everybody in this community in the town of Baker with the destruction that he's created. Which leads me to the question, where do we go after this, something like this happens to our community? This dispensary comes in here and all this traffic comes in. Where do we have to move to get away from this now? So, thank you very much for your attention on this matter.
Christy Donovan.
Try not to repeat everything that's already been said. My name is Christy Donovan. I'm at the 12219 119th Street South in Baker. I do want to say, though, that the first that we actually heard about this dispensary, most of us, was the following day after it ended up on the news and radio. He said that he went and talked in Baker, everybody there. No, that was a flat-out lie. Never talked to anybody. Therefore, I don't even think that should even count. It should just be wiped out. This proposed location is where he's talking is near a new daycare on our softball fields. Our town is a family-friendly environment. During the late spring to summer months, we have t-ball and softball practices every week. They also do games here a couple times a month. When the games are being played in Baker, the whole family comes with. And not only in Baker, I have gone to other areas with my daughter when she was on t-ball, and we feel safe going to these small neighborhoods, small little towns. We don't have to worry about our kids walking around the town. The introduction of a commercial cannabis establishment could potentially alter the atmosphere of our neighborhood and others, and it raises concerns for all of us. We don't want the loitering, the extra noise, and more litter than what is already there. And for what he has there for property, I don't know where all these people would park. Are they gonna park on our road? I mean, it's not that big. Where is this overflow gonna go to? Introducing a cannabis dispensary could conflict with the established character and intended use of this zone, potentially impacting surrounding property values and quality of life for nearby residences. We already stated that. While I trust local law enforcement, the presence of a business dealing exclusively in a high-value, cash-intensive product can introduce new security challenges. We are concerned about the increased traffic and the demands this place could hold on our local police and emergency service resources, which are already budgeted for community size and needs. I believe that the well-being and future character of Baker should be the guiding principle in your decision-making process. The potential risks and impacts associated with this dispensary outweigh any potential benefits for a town of our size. And here I do also have more signatures for this meeting. Would you like those?
Certainly. Give them to Matt, please.
Thank you.
Nate Edwards.
Hi, I'm Nate Edwards. I live at 12225 118th Street South in Baker. And everybody else pretty much said what I already had to say, but I just wanted to point out that these laws were put into place to keep these kind of businesses out of our residential areas. And changing them would really take away peace and quiet in residential neighborhoods, and it would be kind of dangerous to have them around. I think that that would be a bad decision to allow this, so I hope that you don't. Thank you. Bye.
Shane Thompson.
Hi, my name is Shane Stephen Thompson. My middle name comes from my great-grandpa, but my great-great-grandpa homesteaded there in 1887. 1 mile and a quarter from that elevator. I used to deliver grain to that elevator. I know I was over 14, but I don't know if I was quite 15 in a single-axe truck back in the day, and that road, like everybody else said too, is very narrow, that we had to wait for other trucks to come by to get into the elevator, and if somebody was gonna put it back into a grain elevator again, that'd be a perfect place for it. I wouldn't have to haul my crops so far away, because we take care of the best, and that's what we do. So I didn't bring up a piece of paper, because I don't write nothing down, I just speak from the heart. Like my great-great-grandpa comes to me in my dreams and tells me no, absolutely not. And I would have gave you my addresses, but I actually own the property where my great-great-grandfather homesteaded now too, so. And it's very frustrating. Used to be a coach for the t-ball teams and the softball teams in Baker back in the day, so I tell you what, like I said, we take care of the best, and we just want to protect. We don't have any police department. You know, the sheriff's department comes through and back and forth, but it's not permanent, and the roads aren't, they're gravel. I mean, there's no concrete down there, and started shoveling spuds back in the day when I was about 10 years old. I wish I wouldn't have, but my back would feel better, that's for sure. So it comes from a long time ago, and I just want to hear from long heritage from my great-great-great-grandpa, grandpa, and my dad, who's still alive now at 82 years old, and says no. So I appreciate all the other people that talked. They gave really good words about how honest that community is, and we take care of the best down there. So I'd like you guys to put that into consideration when we come to a decision on this, and like I said, turn it into grain elevator again, and I'm perfectly fine with that, because I didn't even know they had a bathroom when I was 14 years old dumping grain there, so, yeah, same old thing, so. Appreciate you guys having the meeting, so, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone else in the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone else in the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against? Hearing none, look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Josh, seconded by Kurt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed. Okay, where am I? Findings of fact.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want me to kind of run through how the
Yes.
findings, okay. Commission, for each finding, there's been, based on the record so far, not based on the public testimony here tonight, but staff did draft an approval finding and a denial finding for each of the review standards. And this is essentially to serve kind of as a starting point for any discussion, as well as an opportunity for you to either kind of accept these findings as is, one of the two findings as is, or to modify, revise, delete, and start fresh as you see fit. Kind of the hope is to go through these and come to a general consensus for each finding before moving on to the next finding. That makes sense.
I have a copy. Oh, that's. Oh, okay, yes, I. Okay. Hearing, staff report. Okay, number one, burden on public utilities. The development authorized by the text amendment will not create a excessive burden on any public facilities or utilities.
I think there's an issue with the road and the parking.
Yes, I would agree that there, the lot is very small. Okay. Number two, consistency with ordinance. The text amendment is consistent with the general purposes of this ordinance. And I would have to say no. It's not consistent with the previous cannabis businesses that we've set up, that we've approved, that we've had hearings for. It's not even close. And I, question if 1 acre was enough, but that is what we agreed on. Anybody else care to comment on the consistency with ordinance? Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time revising the text amendments. I don't know how many meetings we had. A lot of thought was put into every aspect of setbacks, you know, if it's feedlots or whatever it might be. To go from 1 to 0.5, that's a huge step, and then this was a 0.43, I guess, so it just seems like there's so many obstacles in the way to, you know, everything from what Jenny mentioned, traffic, snow, parking. I can't imagine there wouldn't be violations of many of those things. But the text amendment was put in there for a reason, and I would rather keep it as the text amendment reads now and just deal with each situation on its own merit.
Okay, item number 3.
So, Mr. Chair, just so I'm capturing this correctly, would the commission want me to add that, the comments by Mr. Steichen, does that reflect the commission's, the sentiment of the commission? Would you want me to add that into the denial findings?
I would agree to that. That was stated very well. We'd research and each individual as we have.
So the planning, would we say the planning commission and board of commissioners put like careful consideration and research into the development of setbacks and minimum lot sizes?
We spent hours on those things.
Oh,
Hours.
I do have one more when Matt's ready.
And so I want to capture the second part of that. You would rather see,
Essentially, the Board of Adjustment's there for a reason, instead of having a blanket statement for those 6 little ASCs around the county, deal with one individually. And it was stated that, you know, Otter Tail didn't have a setback from residents. I looked, just the 2 counties close to us, Becker County has a 500-foot from residential, and Polk is 500. There's others, counties in the state that I'm not exactly familiar where they're at, but true, there is apparently Otter Tail, but there's others close by that do have basically what we have in place.
And then there's a county 10 miles west that it's illegal completely.
and so, Mr. Chair and Commission, would this denial finding, would that kind of satisfy what you were, or reflect what you're looking for?
Does for me, yes.
And just to backtrack, would that be the same with the burden on public utilities finding? I want to make sure that that's,
I guess I would say it all kind of blends in similar fashion. You know, they do deal with specific things, but it all kind of bleeds together.
so the commission would be, would be your finding then?
Correct.
And Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Steichen said he may have had one more thing to
Well,
add?
I was just referencing, there's two counties right.
Oh, the two
one
counties.
bordering us and one a little bit of ways that have 500-foot setbacks from residential. And there's others in the state that have, not a lot, but there's others that have setbacks similar to what we have. But I don't know where they're at.
Okay. Number 3, conflict with comprehensive plan. The text amendment is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Clay County Comprehensive and Transportation Plan. I find so many things wrong with this application. Photo evidence of the property itself currently. Daycares, houses. I mean, like I said in the first meeting, I questioned if, 500, 1 acre was enough, is 500 feet enough? But that is what we settled on. And I remember the first two, I mean, this is not the only one or the first application we've had for this type of business, and they met all the criteria right out of the gate.
And Mr. Chair, I believe,
wrong.
Mr. Chair, I believe that those two were approved unanimously by the Planning Commission.
It's just, he's asking for a half an acre. He doesn't even have a half an acre. He has said that in a prior meeting that we've dealt with this potential situation before. He has not met with Clay County Environmental. Just so many holes in this, and I don't feel we should approve this. There's two bits.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, just related to the comprehensive plan and the goals itself with the reduction of the setback and then the minimum lot size, would you agree with either of these, either the approval or denial findings, and then if there's anything in additional related to just the comprehensive plan? Mr. Chair, you mentioned daycares being a potential conflict as well, so especially at-home daycares.
And that's what you do in a small community. They're not downtown or alongside the highway like we had the prior one, but they met the setbacks. If you could add, let's see, with rural residential or agricultural uses, to the residences and playgrounds where kids can be.
That'd be appropriate.
I believe so. Anybody else? Mr. Steichen?
Yeah, I do appreciate Mr. Dom's, he wants to improve his lot and bring in economic development and all that, which is what we all like to see, obviously. But as far as the comprehensive plan, yeah, it does talk about reinvestment and economic diversification and all that. But in the denial side of things, some of the things we've already spoken on, we can't discount the fact that people showed up here for a reason tonight. And the reason is they're not happy. Not that they're not happy. They don't want things changed for this particular spot. They want to be, they see the potential issues. And on the last sentence of the denial finding, it says, These amendments will increase conflict potential and undermine plan objectives related to rural compatibility and environmental health protection. That seemed like it takes in a lot of the things that's been discussed tonight. If this is changed and this is allowed, it just seems like this is setting up for, I think Mr. McLaughlin spoke on who knows what's going to happen next, but increases conflict. You know, that's not what we are here to encourage. But I do appreciate him wanting to start a business. I'm not going to take that away from the guy, but like the chair has talked about the other things we approved unanimously, it was like no questions asked almost. It just seemed like the right fit for those situations. And this does not seem like a good fit on so many levels.
Anyone else have anything to add? If not, I look for a motion to send this on to the Planning Commission with a recommendation for denial or approval.
Make the motion to send it on to the commission, county commission for denial.
Motions are made by Mr. Steichen to deny,
Second.
second by Ashley. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair. As I've done on some of these other similar, I will recuse myself from the vote because I will be voting at the county board level.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I just want a clarification on Mr. Steichen's motion. Is that based on these findings that you've made?
That those last three findings that we
Yep.
talked about, yes.
Based on the findings in 3 consecutive denials. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We've had some discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Denial is recommended to the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. Our
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the hearings, or if you want to go, you can go.
Our next hearing. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you, guys.
taking part in local government.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Nobody in here.
Our next public hearing is for Eric Ockery, request for interim use for home occupation permit. The applicant is requesting an after-the-fact interim use occupation permit
Guys.
for an existing service business at 27655 102nd Avenue South, Hawley, Minnesota, 56549, on parcel ID 24.027.1301, in part of Government Lot 2, Section 27, Township 138N North, Range 44 West, Park Township. Look for motion to open the public hearing.
So offered.
Second.
Motion by Jenny, seconded by Sebastian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. It is, hearing is open. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is a request for an interim use permit home occupation for Lakes Area Jetting. The applicant and landowner are Eric and Summer Ockery. This property is located on the south side of 102nd Avenue South and directly south of the Minnesota Steam Threshers Reunion property. There isn't a residence and an outbuilding on the property. The subject is zoned Ag General and Shoreland Special Protection. The surrounding properties have similar zoning, and this type of request is allowed in these zoning districts if it meets the minimum requirements and granted an interim use permit. So the request is to continue to operate Lakes Area Jetting out of the property. Basically, the use of the property is to park 2 semis and 2 vans, as well as a small office within the shop for day-to-day paperwork and employee check-in. They estimate just under 3,000 square feet of the shop for the business, and then they employ 4 additional employees. They do have parking for employees on the south side of the shop building, and it operates year-round, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. On review of the application, they appear to meet all the standards for this interim use home occupation. The nearest residence is to the east, about 260 feet. It's buffered by trees. We have not received any public comment for this request and have not received any comment from the township as well. For our comprehensive plan, we have a goal to maximize the potential of Clay County as a thriving center for ag, business, and recreation while maintaining and enhancing its livability. Home occupations that follow our regulations for home occupations, they do provide unique opportunities for residents to live and work in the county, and they have the potential to enhance both the economy and livability of Clay County. We have a goal to establish a comprehensive growth management strategy that promotes orderly and efficient growth of residential, commercial, and industrial development while preserving the county's rural character. Home occupations are nice because they allow that flexible living and working arrangements, making for more efficient use of large tracts of residential properties, and shouldn't detract from the rural character of the county if the structures and use are in harmony with said rural character, and if the use does not create nuisance conditions. We also have a goal to plan land uses and implement standards to minimize land use conflicts. Home occupations that meet the development code regulations should not contribute to land use conflicts. Any questions for me at all? I should note that this property is in shoreland, and it does appear to meet all the shoreland setback, impervious surface standards as well.
Would the applicant care to speak? Please come up to the podium and state your name.
I'm Eric Ockery, reside at 27655 102nd Avenue South, Holly. My wife Summer is present with me. I guess it's something we should have applied for out of the gate. We're a little late on it, but we received a letter that we needed to get in and do that, and I guess we followed through with the county's request to do so. We currently are on our 3rd year of operation with this business, and things are going well. An end goal will be to get this out of my wife's yard, but it takes a little financial gain prior to going through with a further commitment to building or renting or purchasing. So I guess if you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. I don't see a lot of growth as far as employee or equipment wise in the near future that would involve any expansion of our existing facility, and we hope to stay in good standings with everybody. So.
Now, is this the same property that you ran County Line Plumbing?
County Line Plumbing has been operated out of there. I will say has always been a much smaller scale. That was one van and 2 guys in it, and that's all that was coming and going, and one of the 2 guys was typically me. I understand I probably should have had this permit at that time. Not saying it was any confusion, but I guess it probably was. But we are still operating a plumbing business out of there, which we're starting to slow down with and trying to take off with our lakes area jetting business.
So, and Mr. Chair, I should just add in the 3 years of operation, and then even prior to that, we have not received any complaints or anything about the business or the property itself.
Is the home yours, or?
Yes, this is our property where we raise our 3 sons and operate our business out there on the daily. My wife works in our home office a couple days a week, and I guess we put that out in our shop. The home itself has no existing business operations out of it. Everything takes place out in our shop facility and setting.
Mr. Chair and Matt, Mr. Ockery, for the benefit of everybody here and listening, can you explain what jetting is?
We actually serve you guys quite regularly. We take care of commercial infrastructure, a lot of storm and sanitary sewer. We've done some culvert work throughout the county, opening them up. We have, right now, currently, we have 2 large hydrovac trucks. They're full-scale semis that we have the ability to, through water pressure, clear blockages. We also do a lot of inspections for surrounding communities, multiple communities that are within Clay County, where we clean and inspect their infrastructure, storm sanitary. We do a lot of new construction, pre and post cleaning inspections. That kind of covers our scope of work. We do work on the residential scale, but primarily we're working for civil and commercial contractors. And just to add on to it quick, most of the summer, our trucks are staying out on site. We're not, typically, if we're working in a community, we're there for a week and we're trying to go from one community to the next. We have less truck traffic than the local farmers probably have on the road, honestly, in our busy months, because we're just not coming back to the home base. We're leaving trucks on site and transporting back and forth with a vehicle.
Oh, all the gravel that goes up and down that road.
Yeah, we see plenty of traffic between steam thrashers and agricultural use, which I have zero complaints about. I'm happy to see everybody thriving and doing well in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else, is there in the audience that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for or against? Hearing none, look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Brad, seconded by
I motion.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Public hearing is closed. Okay. Findings of fact. The interim use will not be injurious to the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of residents of Clay County. I believe that there's nothing that these guys are doing that would be any conflict with the county residents. The interim use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted.
Mr. Chair and Matt, you said there was no formal objections from or anything on record of being an issue?
Yep, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Steichen, there's been no records of complaints from neighbors or.
Okay.
And has the applicant, aware of, how many employees you can go up to 10?
15.
Plus himself? 8?
15, I think.
Okay, didn't think it was that high, but. Okay.
Erica will fact check me.
Okay. I see there's nothing under this item that is objectionable. The establishment of the interim use will not impede this normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses predominant in the area.
Imagine the only time would be the steam threshers reunion, Mr. Chair and Matt, but I'm sure you're part of that operation and you understand that, so.
Oh, and, your driveway's off the Downer Road, isn't it, or are you?
We're directly across from the steam threshers. I actually rent my property to steam threshers.
Okay. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide utilities, access roads, drainage, and off-street parking and loading spaces as required by this ordinance. Mr. Jacobson in his presentation stated that everything that he had, there's no wetlands, the impervious requirements are met.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, they had ample space for parking of equipment and vehicles.
And he's not adding anything, so. Okay. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, water pollution, and soil erosion, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs or other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result. Yeah, he's gonna be the quietest one in the neighborhood for
Well, Mr. Chair,
most
he's
of the
been
time.
operating for 3 years without any complaints, so I guess that kind of answers that question.
The interim use will not create an excessive burden on current or anticipated public infrastructure or services that serve or are proposed to serve the area, including but not limited to parks, schools, public safety devices, roads, water supply, sanitary sewers, storm sewers, unless the county and the applicant establish a development agreement that determines how such impacts will be resolved. He is not doing anything out there that adds any, actually assists with something that's really big for our area, which is the threshers. The interim use is allowed by this ordinance and conforms with any specific use standards established in Chapter 8 as may be applicable. This was covered in both of their presentations also. The interim use is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Clay County Comprehensive and Transportation Plan and any comprehensive plan of a township or city as may be applicable. Providing a service and providing jobs and. So I approve that. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for the applicant or Matt or comments? Hearing none, look for a motion that the interim use permit be denied or that the interim use be issued. Let me pause for a moment there. Staff has 3 conditions. Home occupation shall comply with the Clay County Development Code home occupation standards. The permit ceases upon ownership change. Employees shall be limited to members of the house and 10 additional non-family employees unless a plan for additional employee parking and mitigation of potential impacts are provided to the planning office. Eric, have you read and understand, and would you be able to comply with the 3 conditions? Yes. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve interim use permit with the 3 conditions.
Motion by Brad to approve.
Second.
Second by Kurt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. IUP is approved. Thank you, everyone. Next item is Novell Energy Solutions, request for a conditional use permit amendment. The applicant is requesting to amend a previously granted conditional use permit number 831742, for a 1 megawatt community solar garden on parcel ID 07.034.4600. Part of the west half of the southeast quarter, south half of the southwest quarter, northeast quarter of the southwest quarter, section 34, township 142 north, range 46W, Felton Township. Look for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Jenny, seconded by Sebastian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing is open. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a CP amendment request for a 1 megawatt community solar garden brought forward by Novel Energy Solutions, landowner Charles and Sheila Hildy. This is the east side of Trunk Highway 9, and it's a quarter mile, or little under a quarter mile south of Felton. It's currently ag, tilled agriculture. The Planning Commission did grant a conditional use permit in 2021. There was an amendment to that permit in 2022. Essentially, the amendment just was for the initial conditional use permit was only good for a year, or the use would have had to have been established within a year. In 2022, that was amended to allow 3 years for the use to be established. And now that 3-year time window has passed, so we're back for another amendment to this. So the base zoning, it's agricultural general. The request is to establish a 1 megawatt community solar garden on approximately 10 acres of farmland. This is a program through Excel in the state of Minnesota, allowing for residents, businesses, and other entities to subscribe to solar power and receive bill credits. It's accessible to Excel Energy customers in Minnesota. So this site was selected due to its level terrain, the amount of sunlight, and probably most importantly, proximity to electrical infrastructure, landowner participation, and it's going to interconnect to the grid through Excel Energy. The goal is to begin construction in 2026. Solar panels will have a max height of 12 feet. The project lifespan is 30 years. They will establish beneficial habitat pollinator vegetation. The site will be enclosed by a farm fence. There'll be gate access with keyless entry and signage with 24-hour contact information. Decommissioning of this, looking at just all the costs, they'd be looking at a full removal of all equipment, restoration of the site to egg production based on the landowner preference. Looking at just over $35,000 would be estimated for the decommissioning. I don't think that includes any potential salvage costs or salvage that they might get from the equipment through recycling and things like that. This is on prime farmland. I think the crop equivalency rating, it ranges from 67 to 71. Prime farmland if drained. It's also directly to the east of the Felton Cemetery. Some considerations, this would take 10 acres of prime farmland out of production. We did not receive any public comment on this. Just want to note that this site plan has changed a little bit from the original requests. Before they were going to use an existing field approach to enter in from the south side of the cemetery, and now they're looking at accessing Trunk Highway 9 through the north side. So there'd be a new access connection to Trunk Highway 9 that would be proposed. That would result, they'd need to have an access permit from the state of Minnesota, Minnesota Department of Transportation, as well as a utility right-of-way permits as well. Relative to our comprehensive plan goals and objectives, we have a goal to support long-term protection of the county's strong and diverse ag economy. Community solar gardens do add diversity to the ag economy in Clay County. They allow for producers to diversify their operations and revenue streams that in a manner not at odds with the agricultural production. Ensure all new development is compatible with the character and quality of the county's ag areas. We have some folks who have perceived the community or solar in general as detracting visually from the ag character of Clay County. Virtually all these are installed along major transportation corridors and hubs. We have a goal to recognize and protect the ag character of Clay County, and an objective under that would be to protect prime ag soils from commercial, industrial, and residential development. So this would look at taking 10 acres of farmland, if prime farmland, if drained, for a minimum of 30 years. There's an estimated 297,600 acres of prime farmland if drained, and 154,240 acres of prime farmland in Clay County. The project site could potentially be restored to farmland as soil loss would not occur. And ideally, we'd want to site these on marginal ag land. Looking in the grand scheme of things, it is small scale relative to the total acreage of prime farmland in the county. We also have an objective to avoid or mitigate against commercial and industrial development in or near environmentally sensitive areas. This is not in or near an environmentally sensitive area, and to avoid or mitigate against commercial and industrial development that increases the potential for land use conflicts with rural residential ag uses. The use is relatively passive, doesn't generate excess traffic, noise, vibrations, or dust. Does generate power for Minnesota businesses, residents, institutions. I should add too that we, in our code, do have a screening requirement from any nearby or adjacent residences as well. So they'd have to screen that with the vegetation. We have a goal to grow and restore prairie and woodland areas in Clay County. The community solar garden would result in about 10 acres of pollinator and wildlife habitat. And that's kind of done through this objective to encourage ag, commercial, and industrial and residential development to establish prairie or woodland areas on properties to provide ecosystem services such as erosion and flood control through assessment, permitting, tax, and zoning programs. The beneficial habitat establishment is a requirement for community solar gardens in Clay County. Any questions for me at all? Again, this is one that's gone through this process. This will be the third time.
So nothing has changed significantly. This has been approved probably for 7 or 8 years for been looked over for wetlands or.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Mm-hmm. And they have done a wetland delineation. The only big change is the access.
And that would be up to MnDOT to grant that. We would have nothing to do with it.
Correct.
As a board or as the Clay County engineer, that we'd have nothing.
Correct.
Okay.
I believe the applicant is online.
Okay. Go ahead and introduce yourself and speak, please.
Good evening. My name is Mahmoud Othman with Novel Energy Solutions, 2303 Whitewood Street, St. Paul, Minnesota. Along with me are my colleagues, Ralph Amnesio and Erica Ward. Thank you, Matt, for giving us that comprehensive overview. Again, this is essentially an amendment to previously permitted 1 megawatt solar site. We did receive our MnDOT access permit earlier last year, April of 2025, and they did require us to add a culvert to our 20-foot access driveway. So we do have that permit, and that was the only minor change since our previous amendment. Here to answer any questions or comments as needed. Ralph can also step in if anything is needed as well.
Mr. Chair and Matt, I have your name correct. It's Mr. Othman? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just for our benefit here, if the solar farm is less than 1 megawatt, is there solar energy production tax on that, or is that when it's only over 1 megawatt? As the reason I ask is that why a lot of them are capped at 1, because we're going to talk about a larger one a little bit later.
Can't quite answer that. Ralph, could you speak to that?
Good evening, everyone. Honestly, I couldn't answer that because we don't deal with that part of the business when it comes to taxes and regulations. I can tell you that the driving force a lot of times for the size of one of our solar gardens is based on what the utility says and what the need is in an area. A lot of times these enter into system studies and they decide what the capacity of what we're going to offer. So typically in Minnesota and even in Maine, a lot of our sites are 1 megawatt. For a while we were doing 2 megawatts, but as other companies started doing what we are doing, it dropped down. So generally, I would say it's because of that. The tax portion of it, I honestly couldn't give you a straight answer on that because I just don't know enough about it. But while I have you, I will tell you, one of the things that was mentioned was decommissioning. That number does not include any recycling revenue that we could get back by recycling it and them paying us. And that number always fluctuates. So that number is not incorporated into the decommissioning plan. And as well as, one of the, I mentioned too, where we put these, it's dependent on having three-phase electric nearby. If it's too far away, you can't run it that far and it won't work. So this site has access to three-phase electric, and that's why we're able to propose putting a garden where we are. And then the final thing I just wanted to mention, we've been lucky that you've granted us a couple of approvals or extensions, however you want to look at it. And the main reason why is the supply chain issues that we're still dealing with. As maybe you might be aware or not aware, the president's Big Beautiful Bill caused some change in the industry, which actually knocked a couple big solar companies out of business. And one of the things that all solar companies have to do is we have to buy a majority of our products domestically, which is good for the United States and our economy, but which has caused a definite backlog in being able to acquire things in a timely fashion. So a lot of times we'll say at a meeting that if we get an approval tonight, we probably won't be able to start for at least a year because it takes that long to get the equipment that we need. But this site is actively being sourced since it was previously approved and they were starting to work on it. So we're well on our way to getting the equipment we need lined up to get this site hopefully started and finished in 2026. So I just wanted to give you a little background information on that. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I just had one kind of follow-up. It says the estimated life, I'll just say Mr. Ralph, because I probably will butcher your name.
He's Ralph. Mr. Adenizio was my father, and I'll never be that.
It mentions the lifespan of the project is 30 years. Is it, just for our understanding, is it more realistic to expect within the next 5, 10, 15 years that technology will come to a point where the 30 years you might still want to operate for 30 years, but probably not with existing equipment?
Oh, absolutely. So that is something that we routinely speak about. Even in sites that we've had approved previously, a lot of times we'll come back to a board because once we start going out and getting the equipment we need and the different panels and maybe we can't get a particular panel, we usually do come back and say, hey, we have to make the site a little smaller, which is always a good thing because the technology in the panels is better, so you can do more with less panels. So I honestly suspect the way the industry is going and the technological advancements, because you even see it with AI and everything else, that in probably 10 years, this site will probably get updated and probably be half of what it is now and generating the same amount, if not being able to generate more. So the technology is definitely moving in that direction. I mean, you see even now, they have shingles that are solar power, can generate solar panel for power for houses. So it's an industry where they're always looking for a better way to do things. And certainly, as to what you mentioned, I don't even think it'll be probably 10 years where we'll see such a big jump in the way things are done. Even a lot of sites, we do battery storage in Maine, and the battery situation has just gotten so much better as well because these sites, they generate a lot of electricity, but some of it goes to waste. It doesn't get into the system, and what it does, In a battery situation, it stores it in the battery, and then overnight, it goes back into the system. Now, the benefit of that is that it doesn't make the utilities generate electricity. So they're not using coal or whatever they might be doing to generate that electricity. We're getting it from the sun, and it basically, you can almost do it 24 hours a day at this point. So it just a little additional information for you guys.
Very good, thank you.
And Mr. Chair and Mr. Second, I'll just to answer the question about the solar energy production taxes, it's the 1 megawatt is the cutoff. Anything under 1 is exempt from that. Anything over would be subject to that tax. It's $1.20 per megawatt hour generated.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody have any additional questions? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for or against? Or at? Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for or against? Hearing none, look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Laura, seconded by Brad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried, public hearing is closed. Now we will go through the findings of fact. The conditional use will not be injurious to the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of residents of Clay County. Do you have any comments? This is something that we've gone, on this particular site, we've just wiggled it around, third time's the charm.
As long as they comply with fencing and access and safety, I guess, looks fine.
Okay, thank you. The conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted. Okay. The establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses predominant in the area.
All agricultural, so it's not gonna change anything.
There's nothing, yes. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide utilities, access roads, drainage, off-street parking, and loading spaces as required by this ordinance. He said that they've got their permit and they modified it a little bit to put a culvert in.
Guessing MinDOT has already stamped this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, would you want me to just modify that to state that they do have an access permit?
Yes. That would be good. Okay. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, water pollution, and soil erosion, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs or other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result. They are required to do some native plantings. There won't be any dust after the project is done, other than there really is no lighting at these sites. No vibration. So. The The conditional use will not create an excessive burden on current or anticipated public infrastructure or services that serve or are proposed to serve the area, including but not limited to parks, schools, public safety services, roads, water supply, sanitary sewers, storm sewers, unless the county and the applicant establish a development agreement that determines how such impacts will be resolved.
Minimum traffic, and it does not require public sewer water service, so no demands on that public facilities.
I agree, once they get it done, that they do maintenance a couple times a year, and the conditional use is allowed by this ordinance and conforms with any specific use standards established in Chapter 8 as may be applicable. And we have approved many of these, and they definitely are allowed to be where they're proposed. The conditional use is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Clay County Comprehensive and Transportation Plan and any comprehensive plan of a township or city as may be applicable.
I just wanted to make a note on that. I know this is a small acreage, but these little small acres add up. And that prime farmland does get reduced over time, so I just wanna state that I'm not fond of the idea of this going on any prime farmland, so.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments on this fact? And I, share many of Ashley's concerns. It is, in theory, temporary. It isn't like you put a Walmart up and that ground will never, ever be farmed again. Yes. I have voted against some of these in the past, but personally, I'd rather, I'm stuck more on telling somebody what they can't do with their own land versus losing 10 acres.
So, Mr. Chair, just considering Commissioner Hank's comment, I just want to ask if the Planning Commission has any issues with the approval finding then as drafted, or would you wish is the consensus to keep it as is?
Keep it as is.
Okay,
I would think you could keep it as is. I mean, this is great for soil health, being planted in pollinators. Like, this doesn't get any better than, than tilling it and erosion and wind for all the acres that got taken out of CRP in the state years ago. A 1 acre, or say a 10 acre piece here and there, that's good for soil health in our agricultural community, with the addition of the pollinators, which is really great.
Mr. Chair and Matt, I do understand Commissioner Hang's position and Brad's as well. The soil health will be exceptional when this is coming out, but I do understand your concern about everything, because we've had that come up before, so I do appreciate you mentioning it.
So, do we have more that are approve than disapprove? We have. Okay, yes, we have a consensus of the board that, for approval on that fact finding. Okay. So now we're at the point where I look for a motion that the conditional use permit be denied, or a motion that the conditional use permit be issued, subject to the following conditions. Is the applicant still online, Matt?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have a copy, or have you read the 6 conditions?
Yes, we have a previous copy, and we're able to fulfill each condition.
Okay, you understand and are able to meet them, okay? And I think for me personally, because we don't know what things are gonna cost, the condition number 6 is important, because they have a trucking cost in their estimate. I mean, what's diesel gonna be? What's a $500,000 semi gonna cost? I mean, who knows? I like to see that there is some dollars put forward to protect the county and not just the county, the landowner themselves. So, again, I'm going to ask for motion to deny or a motion to issue the permit, subject to conditions 1 through 6, or anybody want to change a condition?
Mr. Chair and Matt, are these the same conditions that they've been asked to comply with in the past?
These are the conditions that they're essentially the same for any community solar garden.
I think the conditions are fine, if they can accept them.
Would you make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit, subject to the following 6 conditions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dave and a second by several, but we'll give it to Kurt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Commissioner Hang voted to deny. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your time this evening.
You are welcome. Next item on the agenda is Buffalo River Garden LLC, request for a conditional use permit. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a 4.75 megawatt community solar garden on parcel ID 06.005.3600, part of the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter and west half of the southwest quarter, section 5, township 138 north, range 47 west, Elmwood Township. Look for a motion to open the public hearing. Motion by Jenny. Second by Laura. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing is open. Take it away, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is not an amendment, so apologies for that. It is a CUP request for a 4.75 megawatt community solar garden. This is about 3/4 of a mile north of Sabin. It's on the east side of County State Aid Highway 11. It's currently tilled agriculture. The parcel size is about 95 acres. The project area would be 28.8 acres. Zoning on this parcel, the base zoning is ag general, overlay zoning is resource protection, wellhead protection. So the request is for 4.75 megawatt solar garden. This solar garden would participate in the Xcel Energy Low and Moderate Income Community Solar Garden Program. Would provide renewable energy to income eligible households, public interest subscribers, and community organizations. Looking at just under 1,100 megawatt hours of annual generation and an anticipated operational life of 35 years. A similar site selection criteria to the previous solar garden request. Looking at beginning construction in summer of 2027, looks like it would take around 135 days. There's a 35-year lifespan to the project, and they would establish beneficial habitat and pollinator vegetation. So this is the site here, and also enclosed by farm fence, gate access with keyless entry, and then signage with 24-hour contact information. Surrounding land uses, relatively passive, no excess traffic, no noise, vibration, or dust. And vegetative screening is proposed, there we go, near residences. And so I just want to note here too, that they'd be using an access off of County Road 69 just to bring construction materials to the site. And then the actual transmission would occur going to the west here, underground except for 3 poles here, and connect with XL Energy infrastructure at that location. Would take prime farmland and prime farmland if drained with a crop equivalency rating of 67 to 73 out of production for a minimum of 35 years. Wouldn't be any soil stripping or permanent foundations. They'd remain intact and vegetated during the operation, would be restored to ag use at decommissioning. Again, small scale relative to county prime farmland acreage. One of the differences with this one, as opposed to our 1 megawatt sites, this would be the second site that's been approved by this planning commission around this size, would be subject to the solar production tax. Looking at an estimated annual revenue of just over $13,000, and just looking at a 25-year time frame, amount to $327,000. Clay County would receive 80% of that revenue distribution, and the township would receive 20% of that. So Clay County would be looking at about $261,000 over that time period, and then Elmwood would be looking at $65,400 over that 25-year time frame. Decommissioning plan was included, includes removal of basically everything, site restoration. The total estimated cost is just north of $200,000. That's not including any salvage value, and they do have, I think it's a $2 million financial guarantee associated with that as well. Considerations, this would take just under 29 acres of prime farmland out of production. We did receive some public input just on the placement of overhead power poles, screening from residential properties, future expansion concerns. We did not receive any comments from the township. Just looking at, the applicant did provide some pictures of where the power poles would go. Basically, this is where they would need to tie into to the XL grid. Essentially, is this would be that row of trees on the north side of a property. So this would be looking north on CASA 11 and then looking south on CASA 11. So you can see that there's some pretty good vegetation there. This is really the only area where they could actually tie it in where XL wants them to. They are going to do some improvements to this culvert as well as part of that, which has been an issue with drainage along there. Regarding future expansion concerns, the state community solar garden program does cap community solar at 5 megawatts, so there really isn't any potential for expansion. If they were to, say, propose another additional community solar garden on this parcel, that could be challenging just with the co-location requirements from XL. Similar, this project, how it relates to our comprehensive plan goals and objectives, it's similar to the previous hearing, looking at supporting the long-term protection of the county's strong and diverse ag economy, and these adding diversity to the agricultural economy of the county, allowing producers to diversify their operations, ensuring all new developments compatible with the character and quality of county's ag areas. Again, kind of a spectrum here of the opinion that these detract visually from the ag character of Clay County, They're all virtually along major transportation corridors and hubs. This one may be on a lesser traveled county road. We have a goal and objective to protect prime ag soils from commercial, industrial, residential development. Again, this is a larger one, so it's looking at just under 29 acres of prime farmland. Could potentially be restored as well. And encourage commercial and industrial development that is harmony with the ag and rural character of Clay County. Again, differing opinions on if they're detracting or perceived as an emerging component of the ag landscape. We have a objective to avoid or mitigate against commercial and industrial development in or near environmentally sensitive areas. There could be some minor disturbance to topsoil. There'd be about 0.3 acres of impervious surface. The solar arrays are mounted in the ground. They're not on permanent footings or foundations. Established about 28 acres of native prairie and improve local water quality. I should note too that this use would be over the Buffalo Aquifer in our wellhead protection zoning district, and solar development, just because of the soil health properties, infiltration properties, with water quality especially, is considered a preferred use in this zoning district solely because in wellhead protection areas that are established by communities in the state, this is listed as a preferred type of land use in wellhead protection areas. We have a goal or objective to avoid or mitigate against commercial and industrial development that increases potential for land use conflicts. Again, relatively passive use doesn't generate much for excess traffic noise, vibrations, or dust. We have a goal to grow and restore prairie and woodland areas in Clay County for the benefit and enjoyment of Clay County businesses, residents, and visitors. We'll look at establishing about 28 acres of pollinator and wildlife habitat. And again, that would be required through our ordinance as well. Any questions for me at all?
Mr. Chair and Matt, you mentioned this is a preferred use when you're above aquifer or wellhead. Is that because the soil is not being disturbed throughout the year?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Steichen, yeah, it's essentially the soil's not being disturbed. There is also more opportunities for potentially groundwater recharge and filtration that occurs in these areas as well. Buffalo Aquifer is an aquifer that does not have a lot of recharge potential just because the clay is so hard above it. But if you're establishing prairie vegetation or native vegetation where the roots will get in a lot deeper into that, it allows for filtration and small scale recharge opportunities. Not saying you're going to refill the whole aquifer with a 28 acre solar site, but it certainly doesn't hurt in that respect.
Thank you.
You had mentioned that the power will be underground until it gets to.
Correct.
So but those 3 poles will be new.
Yep, and that's an XL Energy thing. All of our solar gardens have that same. If you look at any of them when you're driving, especially up or down Highway 9, they all have those at least 3 poles before they connect into the transmission. So this would be set back kind of roughly in this area right here. There'd have to be screening from this residence, and it's not on the site plan, but it would probably be beneficial to have that screening, if possible, wrap around a little bit here too for these residences down here. Oh, wait, did I get that right? Yeah. Yep. Top right corner, yeah.
So what's really required for the people directly next to it, or you talked about?
Essentially, yeah, for adjacent properties. Yep.
Might be important to put that in there.
Yep. And that's that's a standard that we have, or performance standard in our ordinance.
No matter what size it is, they have to.
Yeah. And typically what we see, or what has been proposed, we haven't seen for the ones that need to be screened are that have been permitted after the adoption of our updated ordinance is like a double row of conifers or something like that, that can provide immediate screening and not something that you have to wait for.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Matt? Hearing none, would the applicant care to take his turn at the podium?
Thank you. My name is Fritz Ebinger. I work for Nokomis Energy as a project developer. We're based here in Minnesota. I want to thank the planning department staff for their clear communication throughout this process. It's always nice to have kind of direct answers and to have folks on the other end be very responsive. As Mr. Jacobson said, we're asking for a 4.75 megawatt solar garden by conditional use permit. It does pay the energy production tax, approximately $13,000 to $14,000 per year. We did follow the county's lead here and put it in a wellhead protection area. We did as best we could to use the existing field entrances. The Xcel Energy connection point already has an existing aerial overhead. And the poles that Mr. Jacobson discussed should be hidden by the existing mature conifers on a shelter belt to the neighbor. What else can I tell you? This is, as you know, community solar gardens are centralized installations, so all folks have the ability to participate in solar energy. This is a low to moderate income program, so it's designated primarily for schools, churches, nonprofits, and low-income housing providers, so they can benefit from the rate savings. We already discussed the pollinator-friendly habitat, and I think that's most of it. The one comment I did want to make is I routinely hear the concern about prime farmland. There is an electrophysical limitation to the volume of solar energy that you can put in a community, and I will tell you that Clay County is approaching the end of that volume, so I don't think you'd see much more past this. Other point of information is that Clay County has 15,473 acres in CRP right now as of August 2025. So those are acres that are not in agricultural production. There may or may not be prime farmland, but it's something I do like to bring up from time to time. The primary risk to loss of prime farmland is actually low-density suburban expansion. So you can point at Moorhead and maybe the greater Fargo area for chewing up some of that stuff. So if you have any other questions for me, I'll be here. Again, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, is there anyone online or in the audience that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone online or in the audience that wishes to speak for or against? Is there anyone in the audience or online that wishes to speak for or against? Hearing none, look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Jenny, seconded by
Ashley.
Ashley. Okay, I thought it was Ashley, and then seconded by Sebastian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried, public hearing is closed. I think I need to get a hearing aid. Or you need to talk louder. Go through the findings of fact. The conditional use will not be injurious to the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the residents of Clay County. I've never been part of approving or working on one this size, but the standards are all the same. I don't see where there are any issues on this. The conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted. I feel that with the screening, that there really shouldn't be, and I wouldn't see any potential issues coming up. The establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses predominant in the area. There, again, really is nothing. Maybe somebody can keep some bees or do something with it, but, adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide utilities, access roads, drainage, and off-street parking and loading spaces as required by the ordinance. I believe you showed that the road was, proposed road is already in place, and that's gonna come off the township or the county road, where they're bringing materials in and the power is going out.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, they're both county roads, and there'd have to be an internal road that would be constructed, but it's all essentially on the property, it's all on the property owner's land or the property owner's relative's land.
Okay. And then that would just be for construction for, okay? Adequate measures have been or will be taken to prevent or control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibrations, water pollution, and soil erosion, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and to control lighted signs or other lights in such a manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result. And I guess one of the things about this type of construction is that they don't even pour concrete. They drive them into the ground, and there really is no, especially if they're doing this on vegetation or if it's on bare dirt, of course, there would be some potential issues to start, but looks good there. The conditional use will not create an excessive burden on current or anticipated public infrastructure or services that serve or are proposed to serve the area, included but not limited to parks, schools, public safety services, roads, water supply, sanitary sewers, storm sewers, utilities, unless the county and the applicant establish a development agreement that determines how such impacts will be resolved. They're actually adding to the infrastructure. The conditional use is allowed by this ordinance and conforms with any specific use standards established in Chapter 8 as may be applicable. This is something that is a common practice now, and it is definitely something that is good or be beneficial to the aquifer. The conditional use is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Clay County Comprehensive and Transportation Plan and any comprehensive plan of a township or city as may be applicable. It's, again, a common practice, and it will, I believe, benefit the area. Now we're on to the conditions. Have you read and understand and able to comply with the 5 conditions as they are printed?
Yes, we've read them there in the staff report. Yes, we agree.
Does Anybody have any comments or additions or tweaks that they would like to see to the conditions? I mean, they're the standard ones. And this is, say this one will provide some tax revenue to the, help the township out and the county out some. So at the point where look for a motion to approve the conditional use permit with items 1 through 6 or to deny the permit.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve with conditions 1 through
5, sorry, 1 through 5. A motion by Brad to approve.
Steichen, second.
Motion by Commissioner Steichen, or second by Commissioner Steichen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Commissioner Hang is opposed. Motion is carried. Permit is approved. Matt, any unfinished business?
No unfinished business, Mr. Chair.
Okay, under new business, you want to talk about the DNR?
Yes, just want to give you all an update on the public waters inventory. The state of Minnesota, the DNR, is undergoing a statewide basically review and revisions to the public waters inventory. So that would include the public waters maps and then the public waters lists as well. They're really looking just to correct and update the existing PWI, looking to identify additions or removals just based on updated mapping, field review, and then some other administrative removals that happened as well. So they started in Clay County. Clay County is fortunate to be one of the first counties to go through this process. So they started in Clay County in August of 2025. Recently just had a public meeting on that to provide an opportunity to explain the project more to and provide the preliminary list and maps to the county. And that happened on Tuesday. And that happens typically halfway through this 60-day public comment period. So the public comment period is set to close on February 10th. And then there'd be a revision update to for a final map and list and a 90-day appeal period. So they'd be looking at probably this fall, potentially, of having that process finalized. In Clay County, they're looking at the additions of 8 water courses. And a water course is essentially anything that has 2 square miles of drainage or greater, and also would have to have a bed, stream bed, and banks as well. And so they're looking at additions. Most of the additions are quite small. There's a couple up in the northeast part of the county, Ullin area, that are larger. This one around Felton, some of these were removed by an administrative order by the commissioner, essentially because back when these waters were originally adopted, or when this map was originally created in the 80s, not every landowner was properly noticed. So they took some off and are now properly noticing landowners and putting them back on. Also around Felton too is designated trout streams. So any trout stream, state designated trout stream and its tributaries would be automatically included into the public waters inventory as well. So that's why you see that on there. And then there's one basin. It's pretty small down in Tansom Township, and I think it's almost virtually entirely surrounded by public land. And so that's kind of the update. You have in your packet just maps that kind of show each one. If you do have comments, you can use this QR code down here to scan and get to the website, and I can kind of show you what that looks like. So this is a Candy site that basically gives you kind of, it's the one-stop shop for the project. You can kind of see, there's a map where you can see where they're, Blue Earth County is currently under review. Clay County, Sherburne County, I think, and then Aiken County. Benton County, sorry. Sherburne's over here.
It's all the environmental policy resource chair and vice chairs for the last 3 years. So everyone said we shouldn't have ever volunteered to be in those positions.
That's the
I don't think that's the way it is. but
coincidence.
it's how it came, yeah.
So they provide impact, or they provide kind of examples of like what feedback they're looking for. One thing that's very specific for the public to know about this is that you have to submit your comments in writing and through their proper commenting, through the site essentially is where you would have to go to submit written comments. They do not respond to the comments, but they do say that they take every comment into consideration. I'm assuming too that part of that process is if you were to want to appeal something, they might be able to actually meet on the ground with you and do a field type review as well. And then our area hydrologist, Roger Hemphill, he's based out of the Detroit Lakes office, is a very good resource for any questions that anyone might have about this project. Any questions for me at all? Commissioner Mojo, is there anything that I
think you covered it well.
Thank you.
Well, it's, and then look at all the ones they're taking off the site,
I did ask that question of the commissioner of the DNR. I did meet with her a couple weeks ago, and there are components that are coming off. It just doesn't happen to be in Clay County.
Yes.
that stuff I looked at, so they're piecing together, whether it's to get the 2 miles,
Yeah.
we've dealt with this in Soil and Water for, mostly really since Dayton, since the buffer law. It's been an interesting time.
Yeah. So once this is finalized, I will consult with the DNR on this, but there could be some updates to our county shoreland zoning map as a result of this project, just to make sure that they, we can have a public waters in the state that doesn't fall under shoreland zoning, for example. There can be public waters wetlands or anything that'd be under 25 acres. We don't necessarily have to have shoreland zoning around. And there's a lot of public waters in the county that don't meet that criteria. Water courses that would be added, we'll probably have to modify and add shoreland zoning to that. So that's something that could happen too. That is an implication for the county, for the planning commission and the board as well, coming up in the future, is doing an update to that.
That could cause some problems for green bins going in or different,
Yeah, and just kind of a cursory look at it. Erica's done a really good job of diving into this too, as there could be some potential impacts along the Felted Creek area to gravel mining operations.
Okay, thank you.
The other new business I have is that we do have our officer elections, annual officer elections in February, so please start campaigning if you haven't already. Yep, that'll take place at our February meeting. Any questions about that at all? And then finally, it looks like the IRS mileage rate did go up 2 cents, so you're all getting a little pay raise this year. So going from 70 to 72 point something, so.
Mr. Chair and Matt, when will the county commission act on our recommendation for zoning?
With that recommendation, I would like to speak with the petitioner and make sure that we find a time that works for his schedule.
I think it also has to deal, there might be 1 or 2 meetings that we have are short, commissioners, because of travel issues, so
We would want to have a
Once-
full board.
once we get that, yes, once
Yep.
we get that, we'll communicate to you.
Yep. And I'm happy to keep the planning commission updated just by email about when that would take place.
Okay, that'd be great. Anybody else have anything to add?
I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for reappointing me, even though I wasn't here at that meeting. So I appreciate it.
Good to have you here.
Did they tell you what else we volunteered you for?
I'm scared.
Okay, seeing and hearing nothing else needing to be discussed this evening, look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Laura, seconded by Ashley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.